guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my labor and delivery story and how that all went. So if you want to know how that went, just go ahead and keep on watching. So when I was 35 weeks pregnant, I was having preterm contractions. And so I went into the hospital to see what they could do about it, and they gave me a shot. I can't remember what it's called, but it helps you stop from going into labor and stop your contractions and stuff. And so that helped, and they sent me home. So it worked for a whole week. I wasn't having contractions, no pains, no nothing. So when I went back, I was having contractions again, and they had to give me that shot again. They're only allowed to give it to you like 2 times, I believe. And it only worked for an hour, and then they came back in and they're like, we're gonna give you this steroid, and it's gonna help baby's lungs strengthen if she does decide to come early, you know? So I'm like, okay, and they gave me the shot in my thigh, and they sent me home again. And so the next day I had to follow back up to get the second shot, and then after that I was good, you know? I didn't have no contractions, and by that time I was 36 weeks pregnant. And so my aunt was traveling a lot around that time, and I really wanted her in the delivery room, so that's what I was scared of, was her not being there. And when I was 38 weeks pregnant, she was going on a business trip, and she told me, you know, try to stay from going into labor, basically, and so, you know, like, I'm gonna do my best. And I was still working at the time. I work at like an early Head Start and all this. And the day before I went into labor, it was a Friday. I was at work, I was talking to my boss about my maternity leave and how it would go, and that I was going to keep working until I went into labor, you know. And I still had a whole week before my due date, so I'm still planning to work, you know. And then that night, I get home, and we're just relaxing, watching TV, you know, and about 1 o'clock, I started getting contractions. And they weren't too bad. They were just like period cramps. And so I went to the bathroom, and your bloody show or mucus plug or whatever, that happened. And, you know, I'm like thinking, like, is this it? Is this really my mucus plug? Or, you know, I couldn't think of it being anything else. And so I stayed up all night because I was contracting. And they weren't too bad. They were getting like worse though, like drastically. And so about 5:45, I text my aunt, and I'm like, you know, I'm having contractions. Should I go in? And at this point, I'm already timing them. And my contractions, I timed them for an hour, and they were every 2 minutes for 30 seconds. And they got to the point where I'm like crying a little bit, but not too bad. And so at about 8:30, my aunt was like, well, I think you should go in. We're on our way up, because they don't live like close enough to us where they can just like go to the hospital, you know. And so I jump in the shower, I get out, and I start packing my hospital bag, because of course I'm not prepared. Well, I have her bag ready. It was just like my stuff, you know, but it didn't take too long. So me and my boyfriend head up to the hospital, and we get into the triage room, and she checks my cervix. I am dilated at like 4.5, 5 centimeters. And before all of this, when I first started getting contractions at like 35 weeks, I was 3 centimeters. So I was 3 centimeters for about 3 weeks. And it was a Saturday. I was exactly 39 weeks pregnant. And so they admit me into the hospital. They get my IV and everything, and they tell me, you know, just walk around, eat while you can, because, you know, it's going to be a long day and you can never predict when you're going to have your baby or not. So I ate, and I was walking around the halls, and my family showed up. So I'm a very family-oriented person, and so I had a bunch of people in my labor and delivery room. And we were just visiting, you know, and then I was like on the peanut ball trying to like get things going. And then so at about 2:30, they came in and they broke my water, and they're telling me, you know, your contractions, they're gonna get worse. So I'm like, okay. And my birth plan was to have a natural birth, unless I couldn't, like, you know, take the pain. And so my contractions started getting worse to the point where I'm like crying and having like a hard time talking in between them and stuff. And so they asked me, they're like, do you want to get in the shower? So I'm like, okay, maybe this will help. So I get into the shower and they teach my boyfriend this thing to like push my hips in or something, that it's gonna help. So I'm in the shower like crying and screaming because, you know, it hurts, like what the heck. And I get out of the shower and I'm just like laying in bed, and they told me I couldn't get the epidural because something my plates, I'll find the logical term for it, something to do with blood clotting or something, but that's the reason I couldn't get the epidural. The only thing they could give me was fentanyl, giving it to me through my IV, and it was helping just a little bit, like it was just taking the edge off, and it was making me like tired and nauseated. So in between my contractions I was like passing out, like, and it made me like not remember a lot of stuff. At one point I was sitting on the toilet because they were trying to make me go pee, and my boyfriend was sitting there and I was eating a popsicle, and he said like I was passing out, like he just seen me like start going like back, and so he like caught me, and like even in the bed like I was passing out, and it was hot, and you're just in pain, so you're like screaming, and without an epidural like you can't even imagine. Anyways, how the day went on, I can't really remember a lot of it, like I said. And then about 8 o'clock, she tells me I'm about 8 centimeters. Finally, at about 8:30, was it about 8:30? She told me that I was dilated at a 9. And she was like, we're just waiting for that last centimeter for you to start pushing. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like still in pain, screaming, crying. And finally, she was like, you can start pushing. And at this point, it's like 9. And so I'm like, okay. So I lay down on my back, and I start trying to push with my contractions. And I was so uncomfortable, like it really hurt. And so like they're like, you can try different positions. And I didn't get the epidural, so you know I could move. And so like how the back of your bed goes up, you know, here I'll put in a picture. This is how I like delivered, and the whole day I was sitting like that, and they were like massaging my back and stuff, and I was pushing and pushing, and at one point I really wanted to give up because it hurt and I was getting nowhere. I was pushing for 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours, and I was exhausted because I didn't get no rest from the night before. Finally, they're telling me, oh my god, she's crowning, you know. And so at this point I'm like doing my best like to get it all over with, like I'm done, like all this pain and everything. And so I feel her coming out, and at one point they're like, you know, stop pushing, and you like you can't stop pushing, like you have the urge to push, like what am I gonna do? And like I was trying like so hard not to push because I didn't want to tear. And because I wasn't getting a contraction, that's why they didn't want me to push. They're like, push slowly, but it was so hard. And then she finally came out, and because of the way I was sitting, they had to like hand her under me, and then I had to turn around and sit down. So I had our beautiful baby girl at 11:12 p.m. on October 27th, 2018. She was 7 pounds 4 ounces and 19 3/4. I was so excited. She was finally here. Like I carried my baby girl for like 9.5 months. And it's just like the best feeling. And once you push your baby out, like there's like no pain. Like it's all gone. Except for like you're bleeding and if you tore and stuff. But other than that, like you don't care. Like you're not tired anymore. You just have this new baby, and it's just so exciting. And so her dad cut the cord. I literally got skin to skin for about an hour before they weighed her and took her height and everything. I was so hungry, so I was like eating everything in sight. And then they finally got me to my recovery room, and we just fall in love with our beautiful baby girl more every day, and I couldn't be more thankful. And if you didn't notice, this is her laying here right now. She's sleeping, so I don't want to bother her. But I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this if you did, and subscribe to my channel, like, comment, give give me ideas for new videos. You know, this is my first video, so it's probably kind of like, I don't know, I still have a lot of learning to do basically. But other than that, thank you guys. Thank you for watching.